Okay, welcome to the meeting of the Henley Town Council and Harpston Neighbourhood Plan Working Group on Monday, the 26th of October. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence, and I've had Glenn Lambert and Michelle Thomas. I'm not sure. Have you got Ian Clark, Kath? No? Okay. And Jeff Luckett may be here later. Does anybody have item 2? Does anybody have a declaration of any items on the agenda today? No, I don't see any. Item 3, public participation. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Have we been notified, Jodie, at all? No. Move on to item 4, which is to agree the notes of the meeting of the 14th of September 2020. If I could take those as accepted. Okay, by Lawrence Plant, seconded by Kester. All in favour? That's fine. We're going to go through the minutes anyway as we go. Item 5, update from the planning officer. I'll pass over to Jodie for an update.
So yeah, we've now held. Sorry about carry on. So we've now held 4 developer presentations, with the last one before this meeting. We had a good turnout with members of the committee and a good discussion around each of the sites. You will have seen that I've circulated the draft addendum report produced by ACOM. Be going back to them with your changes that you've requested. They'll be finalising that report and I'll bring that back to the next committee. The sites will be considered at the next one alongside the housing needs assessment evidence and the housing topic paper at the next committee. I'll be looking at refining the issues and vision and objectives for the next one as well, hopefully. Community First have drafted a initial public survey to send out, but I'll go on to this under agenda item 6. The only other thing is the planning for the future white paper consultation. I'm working on that response and I'll send my draft out tomorrow for your comments, for me to submit that on Thursday. So that's from me.
Okay.
Anna, can I just jump in there?
Jodie,
I've got the Bloxham report from that Lydia has. Have you had a copy of that? Do you want me to forward that to you?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Anybody else wish to comment on there? No. Item 6, updates from the working groups. The first one was the schools, colleges, doctor surgeries, utilities, etc. Jodie was going to make a comment on this.
Yeah, so Councillor Michelle Thomas couldn't attend, so she's just given me a verbal update. She intends to invite the Bell surgery to a Zoom meeting with Rebecca and Joan before Christmas to understand their patient capacity. That was all.
Do you wish to add anything, Rebecca, or not?
I would only add a couple of things, which is that the college is doing well in terms of student numbers this year. They've got about 200 more students than they had initially been planning for, so that's good news, but I think they could probably take more. Obviously Gillett's, we looked at, obviously they're looking at building a number of homes there, which would presumably also produce more pupils for them, but nothing more to add than that.
Okay, thank you very much. The second one was the libraries, community halls, sports and leisure facilities.
Nothing new to report.
Nothing new, that's fine. Item 3, transport. Are you looking on that, Patrick?
Yeah, I just this morning circulated a document around the group, and I copied you, Ken, and
Yeah.
you, Jodie. And it's really to go back to the basics of the topic paper to understand what topics we actually want to cover. And what I've done is to take the transport strategy document from 2017, which lists a series of topics. I think it's now down to us to refine those and identify which ones we would like to and which ones we can include in the new this new neighbourhood plan, or this reviewed neighbourhood plan. It does beg the question as to who we take advice from on what is and isn't acceptable to include in the neighbourhood plan. And I wonder whether this is something else that we could go to Ricardo Rios for initially to see if he can identify someone who's expert in it, or if he can help us himself. So, Jodie, that's probably an action on you.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Is Stefan doing any work with this one as well, Patrick?
I've copied him in, and what I said was any results that anything we generate on the way, we would review at the next transport strategy group. So try and pull the two together so that they've got input to it, and also they've got a report on what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing else on that one?
No.
Next one, the little four was car parks. I was saying this morning, we did have a letter from Liz Hayden from SODC last November. This was when we were discussing putting another lift on the car park in the Kings Road car park. And obviously, dare I say again, with COVID-19, all that kind of went out the window. But the car parks are, well, probably Lawrence can speak on this as well. The car parks do tend to be filling up at the moment fairly well. They're going to open up the entrance to the Kings Road car park Wednesday, providing they can get some tarmac to tarmac part of the road. So that's going to reopen again. And I think once probably another, provided we don't get a problem with COVID, I think within a month or two, we'll know exactly if we're going to have a problem with the car parks and they're filling up again. Liz Hayden said that she would put a group together and look into it. And I say, obviously with COVID, that hasn't happened. So maybe within a month or so, we'll be able to form an opinion if there is sufficient car park space or not. I don't believe there is, but we will see on that one. Item 5, the new housing permitted development rights. David, you sent me through a list quite a while ago now. I couldn't open one part of it. I don't know why. But so do you want to just give me an update of where you think we are? And then I'll make a comment as well.
Okay, well, my main concern, and I think the concern of the Henley Society and a lot of the town residents, the concern is that with all these sites being considered, there's a danger that the town may agree to a number of housing units in excess of what's required by SODC. And the opposition to this obviously is due to the traffic congestion and so on, and the loss of green space. As there were 3 letters in the Henley Standard, not this last Friday, but the previous Friday, deploring the extent of new housing in Henley. Anyway, a document that I sent round was a first attempt, I think it was labelled draft, to put actual numbers to what we're dealing with. And I came up with a figure that suggested that we already had enough sites without adding any of these newly proposed sites. If you'd like me to go through that, I could.
Yeah,
you would?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well, the number of houses designated in the first neighbourhood plan was 500, as you know. 147 of those have not been delivered. This reflects the lack of planning applications so far for Empstead Works, that's 42, Chiltern End, 27, 357 Reading Road, 30, TA Centre 10, Youth Club 23, and Gillett's 50. If you add all those up, that comes to 182 units. However, the Highland Farm site that was in neighbourhood plan has currently got permission for an additional 28 units. The Wilkins site, which, as you know, is built, I think contributed 3 extra units above the neighbourhood plan allocation, and 118 Grays Road contributed 4 extra units. So those 3 total up 35. So if you deduct those from the 182, you're left with 147. And that's the number, the shortfall, if you like, from the first neighbourhood plan. Now, since the first...
Let me just stop you there. You said 182 haven't been built.
Yeah, but there were 35 extra that have come in on the sites that were allocated.
You gave the other figure of 231. If you add 231 to 182, that only goes just over 400.
Ah, no, you take the 35 from the 182, because...
That's even worse.
No, wait a minute. We start with 500.
Yeah.
There's a shortfall of 147. Oh, yeah, okay. Shortfall of 182 initially. Those figures that I quoted, Empstead Works, Chiltern End, and so on, they total 182. So there are 182 outstanding, but 35 of those have already been accounted for. So that reduces the 182 to 147. I think Kester agrees with me.
Yes, I do.
Rebecca, did you want to just say a quick word? Then I'll go back to David.
A comment, because I'm not sure that shortfall is the right word here, because I mean, the neighbourhood plan were covered right up until the first one, until 2030, as far as I recall. Yeah. So we don't have to build everything at the very beginning of the plan. It was supposed to be, and the Empstead Works was always going to be one of the later ones to be delivered. So it's not really a shortfall, it's just that they haven't yet been built, but that was okay because the plan covered the time for another 10 years. So we haven't lost these, they will just be developed in time.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, but the point is that we're where we are at the moment, where we've got to produce a new neighbourhood plan, and the current, well, you could come up with a different term to shortfall, but shortfall seems a shorthand way of describing it.
Outstanding.
The shortfall at the moment is 182 minus 35, which is 147.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now, as I say, this was a draft, and I've been corrected in some of these figures by Jody already. So it will need a recalculation, which I haven't done yet. But if you read the document that I sent out, I pointed out a substantial number of Windfalls and PDR developments have been approved. And the most important of these are Wyvale, 40 units, Smith Centre, 78, Anderson House, so on. Anyway, Jody tells me that the Smith Centre has already been accounted for in the total of completions and commitments drawn up by SODC. So that has to be removed. That 78 has to be removed. And also
part of the Anderson House.
That part of the Anderson House, yeah, has to be removed. On the other hand, there are some to add in. For example, the Henley Manor Care Home, we were told by Ricardo Rios some time ago now that care home spaces were in the housing commitments allocated at 50%. So Henley Manor Care Home has 80 rooms, So that's an allocation of 40 plus, and maybe 1 or 2 staff residences as well. So of the loss of 78 from the Smith Centre, we can put back 40. And then we've just heard about the youth club site. And if that were to go ahead, despite our reservations, they're proposing a 56-bed care home. So that would count as 28 extra for the housing allocation. If that didn't go ahead and the site went to housing, with affordable housing, hopefully, we can presume a figure again similarly to that 28 from if the site eventually went entirely to housing. So the figure, well, we then come to the speculation about what the emerging local plan will eventually allocate to Henley. As I mentioned, I've seen figures varying between 115 to 216.
Yeah.
I have the impression that the latest figure is actually 115. Would anyone like to confirm that?
Yeah, it's currently 115 within the main modifications schedule. Yeah.
So 115. So the basic argument is still applicable. As I say at the end, if the lower figure of 115 were confirmed, we would already have a surplus of sites. Well, I haven't done the arithmetic, but I'm pretty sure that on the basis of what I've just said, we shall arrive at a figure greater than 115 already.
Okay.
So there is no need for the town to consider these controversial sites like Drawback Hill, Gillett School, Borlace Field, and so on. Anyway, I leave it there for the committee to think about. But as I say, I think there might well be a peasants' revolt if the town approves more than is designated in the neighbourhood plan.
Well, we may well have a revolt then. We're going to bring a paper to the meeting in a few weeks' time on housing need, with some figures on there, which we'll need to debate, because that could really mess your calculations up, David. But I'm not going to go through that now. But we're going to bring a paper forward, which could be it will be of an interest to everybody around the table. Lawrence, did you want to make a comment there? Lawrence.
Yeah, I was just going to, I've not been a councillor that long, but for as long as I have, we've always been debating the actual number that we still have left to do. Is there not just a black and white, this is exactly what we have? Because this is madness.
I think as we had a quick meeting this morning, and I think Jody said it's basically a moving target. You know, you can look at one figure. As David said, you know, if we weren't to build the 500 from the original plan, just say we only built 400, we're going to have to find another 100 from somewhere else, and that could be another problem. So yeah, it's basically it's a moving number all the time. And you know, I've had discussions with SODC, and they mentioned the 115, they mentioned the 216, but they won't put anything in writing as an exact number. And as I say, when we bring this paper forward to the next meeting on the housing needs, that will be a big debate from this working group on how we wish to go forward. You know, everybody keeps talking about, not everybody, but people keep talking about affordable and social housing. And if you wish to build those, you're going to have to go over David's targets. It's as simple as that. So that will be a discussion for the next meeting. We probably send the papers out before that, Jody, just to give them a flavour of what we're up against. Yeah, Lawrence.
And then just to make sure that following David's calculations, and obviously the good comments about Rebecca about the fact that we don't actually have to fulfil these until the time frame. So at current, we are talking about a 147 that we still need to build out before the end of the neighbourhood plan, and an additional 115 that's going to be added onto that. The 115 isn't replacing the 147, is it?
No.
So we're actually looking at 262 effectively.
Yeah. David.
Well, yeah, we've got a deficit of 147 at the moment, but there have been sites that have come forward that we're not sure whether or not they are included in SODC's reckoning of completions and commitments. This is where the uncertainty largely lies, Lawrence. It's difficult to get out of SODC what they're including in that figure of 1,100 and something, I think it is. Jody tells me that Smith Centre is included, part of Anderson House is included. I don't know about Wyvale. I don't know about the Henley Manor care home. I don't know about the youth club site, and I don't know about 357 Reading Road. But in answer to Kent's point about the need for affordable housing, the council have, well, they own the sites, 357. So what happens there, whether it's all affordable or not, is in the hands of the town council, I think.
Quite true, but carry on.
Well, that's all I've got to say at the moment. As I say, these figures do need updating.
Yeah.
I realise they were only a first attempt, and I'll have another go at it. Now I've got a bit more information, but I still don't think I've got enough to write a definite account.
Okay, I'll go to Jody, then to Lawrence, and then we move on.
I'll clarify specifically about those sites with you. I tried to get more information out of SODC before the committee and I haven't got it yet. So yeah, I'll get to you within the next week for that.
Okay. Yeah, Lawrence?
So as much as the 115 is unknown for now, will we have a clear understanding of exactly where we are in this 147 number before we actually need to make a decision on what sites are or aren't included in the neighbourhood plan?
Yes.
Perfect.
Ken,
Whoever's taken the minutes. Sorry, is that you, Don?
yeah, Ken,
Yeah.
in this paper you're going to be bringing forward to the next meeting, could you give us a number of people on the housing waiting list in Henley?
When you say in Henley, the housing list is SODC4, which covers the district, Don. It doesn't just cover
Okay, well,
Henley.
whichever it is, could you give a figure for people on the waiting list?
I can give you a list. I'll get you a number for that. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
it's a lot.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
3 years ago, it was well over 3,000. So one would imagine it's a higher figure than that. Right, shall we move on then to small 6? Mike Hales, you're obviously here as a resident. Can you hear me? Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You can hear me?
Yes,
You're at the meeting as a resident.
yes.
We've gone past public participation. Are you just happy just to sit there and listen to us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item small 6 was business and community engagement. Who was dealing with that?
I think we were.
Well, I'm going to go to Jody first.
So community first held the initial focus groups, and out of that have arranged 2 further events. One focus group on climate emergency. This will help to feed into developing and forming the policies. There's an option of dates, so hopefully we can confirm that and send that out and publicise that wider. The other event is on community-led housing, and this is free training and opportunity to look at this in more detail, which is on the 18th of November. As I said earlier, they've also drafted a survey for ideas and to feed into the overall vision and aims of the plan, and I'll circulate this for comment before next week. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to make a comment at all, Patrick, or are you fine with that?
Well, just to say, to reinforce what Jody was saying, that we could do with a date for the climate emergency one. because we want to try and engage with as many people as possible in the town with that one. So I hope at the end of this meeting we can come up with a date. Jodie gave us some choices. I think the choice of 3 or 4, including the 17th of November, and it will be good to try and settle on one of those. So the question is, how do we do that, Jodie?
I didn't have much response on that. I'll look and see what the best option is and send it out today in terms of other committees.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'll do that today.
Okay. Moving on to small 7 liaison with other parishes, Kona MP reviews. I've got to get in touch with Didcot, according to Jodie. They've had some kind of public participation in their town hall. I just want to see how they made it work. So I'll bring that back to the next meeting. Small 8, review of all the existing sites. The Deanfield Avenue one, there's a note outside now. They've only got 3 to sell, so we have to accept that. Highlands Farm, which came to our notice through the presentations, have had 69 completions, which 40 of those are affordable. They are building up there at the moment. They're building smaller houses at the moment, so hopefully they will start selling, and also the flats. That's all I've got really to add to that. Small 9, industrial land. And I'll come to you, Jodie. In the presentation for Highlands Farm, they did propose an area of industrial land on the site there. So we haven't seen any real plans or documentation on that, but they were proposing that. Jodie?
Yeah, just going on from that, in the addendum report produced by ACOM, they considered that site as a mixed-use site and concluded that it could be suitable for employment. So we'll look at this further when we're looking at the sites.
Yeah. Okay. Item 10, site selections, which we've just completed today, this afternoon. We've listened to a further 3 this afternoon, so that's 13 sites now that have come forward and done presentations. And eventually, as I say, we'll look for an exhibition presentations over 2 days, say on a Friday and a Saturday, once we can get the all clear from that. And one would imagine that all 13 would come along. I'm sure we've all got opinions on what's taken place over the 4 dates that they took place. I thought, actually, to be fair, I thought there were some excellent presentations. I think some will suit us fine. Other ones we'll need to debate issues on. But I don't think we need to spend any more time on that at the moment, unless anybody wishes to make a comment. There's Kester, you up the top there.
Yes, perhaps a comment. I'm not sure whether it's out of turn, but I do feel we're somewhat handicapped, as we were previously, by the unreliability of official witnesses. I mean, Highways have said that they've no objection to crossways, which I think would amaze most members who tried to cross the road from Crossways to Shipley. Equally, they've made no comment, anyway, as far as I know, about the impact of developments at Gillett's and Lucy's Farm on Blandy Road and Henley from that direction. And if you look at Thames Farm, the latest drainage crisis has arisen despite the lack of any alarm being expressed by SODC's drainage man or the Environment Agency itself.
Yeah.
I think we need to bear that in mind.
Is that something, Kester, for Harpston to follow up on through your district councillor?
Yes, it is, and it's something that I will take up with David Bartholomew.
Yeah, and obviously he could do the highways ones as well. But I do agree with you. That's such a dangerous corner there. I'm not sure I would want to try and walk across the road
Well,
there.
it's not just that one instance. It's that they don't seem to take their job seriously.
Who's this? The presenters or Oxford County Council?
I think Oxfordshire County Council is the one that's in the firing line here.
Okay, all right. Okay, now, thanks for your comments, Kester. So we've done site selection. 11, little 11, conservation area review. Jodie, can I pass that on to you?
So I've refer you to my report on page 13 of the agenda. At the committee in August, it was agreed to invite tenders for the conservation area character appraisal review. Brief was prepared and sent out, and we received 4 proposals. Tender 4 was ruled out due to the price being over 34,000. The remaining 3 proposals are included within the agenda, starting on page 17. These have been considered against the tender matrix, and it was considered that tender 3 was the best proposal. In terms of funding towards this, I'm still waiting to hear back from Historic England. Hopefully I will do in the next couple of days, and also from locality. We'll need to seek the remaining funding from FSM. So the recommendation for this report is for the committee to resolve to recommend to the planning committee that tender 3 prepare the review of the conservation area appraisal.
Does anybody wish to speak to that? If not, I'll propose that we accept tender 3.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Oh, you want to speak, Don? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go on.
Question for Jodie, really. Jodie, tender 2 only produced 2 pages compared with the detailed submissions by the others. In their 2 pages, did they provide all the information you asked for in your tender request?
No, they didn't. They only provided the CVs. They didn't actually go through the programme like the other 2 to show clearly what they would provide. So I didn't think that was adequate. Really.
Then just a follow-up point. In your comparison chart,
yeah,
tender 2 and tender 3 come out quite close together, and tender 3 is twice the price of tender 2. So what makes tender 3 so attractive?
Well, tender 2 was quite high because of the dramatic price difference. It was 5,000 rather than 10,000, but and that was weighted comparably. But it was considered that 3 was a lot better because of actually the programme of works they set out, and actually what we'd get as a result of that in terms of being able to use that with it informing the neighbourhood plan, and also with in terms of decisions and planning applications. It was felt that would provide a lot better piece of work.
We're basically on pages 14 and 15 of the agenda. Kester.
Point of information, please. I couldn't quite get from the paper in the time available whether Harpston is to be included in this conservation study.
So they all set out 3 groupings. So the first grouping was just the main Henley conservation area. The second grouping was to include St Mark's area conservation and Reading Road conservation as well. And then the grouping 3 was to review that Harpston as well as all of those other conservation areas.
Well,
yeah, Kester.
Go on, Kester.
I wonder whether it's worth spending money on Harpston. We know very well what's worth conserving in Harpston. You know, we've got a grade 2 manor house. We've got one or two other marred buildings, but as a whole, the village is not in everyone's idea of a conservation area. Do we need to spend money on it?
Yeah, so that's your decision. If you don't want that to be included, then we would obviously go with grouping 1, and that's the cheapest option in terms of a review. And
well, I wonder what other members think.
yeah.
Maybe I don't understand the principles of a conservation area, but Harpston has been very much studied over many years, and what's good is known to be good. And
Joan, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused about what we're actually being asked to accept. I can see it's 10-3, but you say it's been reduced. And are we being asked to accept, which combination of groupings are we being, 2 questions, which combination of groupings are we being asked to accept? And number 2, what is the reduced price by 10-3?
Yeah, so yeah, we can discuss that as a committee. I think in terms of grouping 1 is the way to go in terms of a review. So that's, can you see my table on page
I'm looking
14? Yeah, so, and the £11,410 is the revised cost.
That's the revised one.
Yeah, that's the revised cost. It was initially 15,000, which is included within their
so we're being
response.
asked to consider 11,400 and whether or not we include 2 and 3 groupings 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The thing, Kester, we in Henley obviously think so much of Harpston. Wouldn't you like a written report that is there in front of people rather than people just guessing? Obviously yourself that have lived in the village for a while.
Fine. Yes, I'm very happy to go along with it, but I suspect we'll be told that 2/3 of the parish is AONB, some of it is SSSI, and 2 of the buildings are grade 2. And, you know, I could have told you that before without spending anything, but maybe it does need a public demonstration.
Jodie.
Yeah, can I just go back on that in terms of Joan's points as well? It probably does depend on the funding we can get from Historic England. I know how much roughly we can get from locality in terms of whether we can do the full review or not. So maybe I'll bring it back in terms of specifically if we can include Harpston or not. I think that would depend on funding available.
So you don't want us to make a decision now?
I think, well, initially, I think if we could decide on grouping 1 and to pick 10-3, and then if I get clarification moving forward that I can get more funding, then maybe we can include Harpston at a later date, if that's a suitable solution.
But they may wish to fund Jodie.
Who?
Harpston.
Well, that's
if it's the only way to get the obvious steps established, yes.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
So are we not doing group 2 then? Is that what we're saying?
Well, that is up to you, and also if on the funding available, really.
I suggest, I propose that if we get sufficient funding, we go for all 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One second for that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favour of that? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 12, climate emergency 2030. Jodie first.
I was going to leave it to Patrick, actually.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yes, so a very, very successful call with the Centre for Sustainable Energy. They They were the people that presented to us at Milton House Court or whatever. Anyway, the SODC building in Didcot, Milton Park. They are very happy to help us, and they say they've got funding for 3 years. So I think we do need to double check with them to make sure that that's 100% funding, or whether they've only got 50% funding. I think that's before we commit to anything. But the other thing they did suggest was that we start to work with Ricardo Rios, or whoever he is appoints within the neighbourhood planning team at SODC, because what they said to us was that where neighbourhood plan groups spring these types of measures onto a local authority, they often fail, and that the way they succeed is by carrying the local authority along with them. So I would suggest we start to do that straight away. And to that end, Jodie sent me an email saying that she would organise with Dan from the Centre for Sustainable Energy and with Ricardo Rios, trying to get a meeting. That's providing that this meeting is happy that we continue along that path.
Anybody wish to speak to that? Rebecca, sorry.
So Patrick, as you know, we're already doing some work with Greener Henley and the Climate Emergency Working Group to put a plan for net zero in Henley together. So how does this fit with that plan? Because there's no point in writing it twice.
No, this is a part of that plan. I think without including in the neighbourhood plan measures that support the work of Greener Henley and the Climate Emergency Working Group, they won't succeed. That it's essential that we get these things written into planning documents, so that gives the planning officer the opportunity to implement the very measures we're talking about. And some of the things that we've been discussing in the Climate Emergency Working Group about building quality and so on, the only way we will get those into planning is to include them in this work.
Plan, yeah.
Okay. Do we need to make any recommendations, or we'll just carry forward?
Yeah. I mean, I would ask that that Jodie and I carry on and try and set these meetings up, and obviously involve you, Ken, and Rebecca as part of this little mini working group.
Okay, that's fine then.
Jackie put her hand.
Sorry, Jackie.
You're on mute.
It was only to ask if I would also be included in that.
You're on there. You're on the list.
I'm on that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, Jackie.
It's okay.
Let's read the agendas. Item 7, Oxfordshire Neighbourhood Plans Alliance. To receive any update from the Oxfordshire Neighbourhood Plans Alliance. Patrick.
Yeah, just to say that we had I felt we had a really good webinar with our MP Sue Brownell and with Joe Robb, and we're working on the outputs from that now. We've got an AGM coming up in November, and we'll get dates to everyone on that. I think the dates have already been announced. Kath is now on the circulation list, I hope, so you should have got all the papers for the AGM. Lawrence, I think you should have received them as well, and Jackie. So you know, if that's open to anyone to attend. We are the best represented neighbourhood plan group in the county, and we are also, the county is one of the best represented in the country for neighbourhood planning. So we do well on all counts, really.
Is this because you're vice chairman?
No, it's a lot to do with. It's interesting that Tame and Henley are one of very few, the only ones in the county and one of very few in the country that have neighbourhood planning officers. And I think it's a testament to having someone with those skills on the council, you know, that can support this kind of work. So that's very helpful as well.
Okay, anybody, any comments on there? No, we move on to item 8, SODC's emerging local plan proposed main modifications consultation. Do you want to speak to that, Jodie?
Yeah, so the link was included within the agenda. Page 89 of the main modifications sets out the changes to the policies. They proposing to change policy H3, requiring Henley to deliver at least 1,285 houses in order to ensure that the town collectively delivers a minimum housing target of 3,873 along with Tame and Wallingford. So the addition in that policy is the words minimum and at least being inserted. It also requires the neighbourhood plan to explore opportunities to address local needs with the additional policy wording of the following. Neighbourhood plans for the market towns should seek to meet demonstrable local needs, for example, for specialist or affordable housing, even where this would result in housing provision in excess of the outstanding requirement. So just my observations on this. We've spoken about the clarity needed for the housing target in this meeting. But as we've said, that will change in accordance with the commitments and completions as we move forward. I think the wording, at least and as a minimum, allows us the opportunity to deliver the target or to go over that. There is a risk that the developer otherwise will increase the housing target. So I think being supportive of that wording would be beneficial. And also I would welcome the additional wording around meeting local needs. And this has come up a number of times. So yeah, those were my comments on that.
Yeah, those are the bits that I refer to, David, when we're talking about figures and we get words like minimum, at least. So, you know, the figure you're talking about is obviously the minimum. It depends if we wish to go over that figure for any specific reason.
Yes, that's what I'm questioning.
Yeah, okay. Other than that, there's not a lot specifically in the plan for Henley. I think there's only kind of 3 or 4 pages that I've read up on, Jodie, anyway. Specifically for us, and they were the main things. Were the housing numbers. Anybody wish to add anything to that, Patrick?
Yeah, just to say that I never thought I would say that the inspector at examination would be playing our corner for climate emergency, but he actually did include significant measures that may help us over what was a really ropey local plan before he got hold of it. So, you know, it does give us a bit of a window for help, you know, of help for actually including policies for ourselves.
I think he's made numerous changes or proposed numerous changes, which SODC, I'm sure, will just sign up to.
Yeah.
To the local plan through. But I'm quite amazed at the amount he did propose to change. So yeah, that should work out fine. Anybody else wish to speak on that? Back to you, Jodie.
So Patrick, are you going to be commenting on that in this consultation, or do you want me to do that? In terms of just to say that we're supportive of those additional policies around climate change.
Yeah, yes. So if you could just say that, I think that, you know, we've absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, the next item were the next steps, and I refer that this afternoon because I think, you know, I was looking to have, you know, this exhibition presentation from the developers that have come forward, and I just feel to put a date on this now, we'd probably be changing within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I think if we could try to work, say, to the end of January for a date there, but I think it's just a question of, you know, what happens with COVID-19. And I can't see anywhere else you're going to do this, have a proper exhibition and presentation, unless you have it on a big open space. I don't believe it would work for 1 minute on a Zoom meeting. You just have too few people turn up. So what we were going to propose, that in the meantime, we really take some time now over the next, say, 3 months and get all these policies into place, and then pick up on with the presenters and the and such like a later date at the exhibition, say at the end of January. Patrick.
Just a thought, and that is, if it's looking bleak and it's unlikely we're going to be able to get people into the town hall, we look at tenting over the marketplace.
Yeah.
And having it open, so-called open air, but with accessibility for everyone to come into a distributed exhibition. So we've got decent spacing.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to numbers.
And the weather.
How many people you can get into a certain area at a certain time. That's what it will come down to. But yeah, I've thought about that as well. That may well be the answer, to put a big marquee up there and have it open for a couple of days and really spread it out. That may be possible. But with the amount of time we've got the year from the end of the from the when the local plans adopted. So we've got plenty of time. You know, I'd like to complete it as soon as possible, but I don't think it's, you know, because of COVID-19, it's going to happen now. So that was the suggestion anyway. You spend more time on the policies and the papers that we've drawn up over the next 3 months and try and get all those into place, which we would have done after the this other work. So if everybody's happy to go down that route. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last item then was did you want to speak on that, Jodie, at all?
No, you've covered it.
Okay, sorry about that. The next item obviously is the next meeting. We've put a date in for the 7th of December at 3 o'clock, if it suits people.
Right.
Yeah. Joan's just done a runner.
Yep.
Don's okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
I think everybody's fine with that, yeah. I've got nothing else other than just to thank everybody for giving a lot of their time this afternoon, coming to the presentations and also obviously the meeting. Obviously, thanks to Jodie. The good news for the ones that you don't know, we're going to move forward a bit quicker on this now because Jodie is now taken up a full-time position.
Oh.
Way.
Well done, Jodie.
And yeah, so I can see her in the office every day once we get out of COVID.
Yeah, lucky you.
Okay, thank everybody very much, and we'll obviously keep in contact over the next 5 weeks or so, 6 weeks, and hopefully by that time we'll be COVID